Good morning. Good afternoon for wherever you're at. Thank you for joining. Interesting little story. Just let you know why I like to go on a little bit early and just put up that thing that says coming soon at noon. Right when I clicked to go live a few minutes ago, the tools that I use said, "Yeah, sorry, we can't go live." I'm like, "Oh my God, what are you talking about?" And it turns out that there must have been just some disconnect between LinkedIn and the tools I use, and I just needed to reconnect it. But being early is a great tip to remember because it gives you a second to recover from whatever you're trying to do. We're going to get started right here in a split second. I'm going to make sure that we're good to go. If somebody throw just a little shout out, lets me know that you can hear me. But I think we're good to go because I can see myself on the phone, and that's perfect. Okay, so let me just turn off this little graphic because, by the way, for those of you who come a lot, tell me the next time I leave my caption that's running across the bottom, if I'm leaving it on, I got to give you my phone number and say, hey, text me and tell me to turn that off so you don't get annoyed by it. Okay, for those of you first time here, I don't look at the chats while I'm going, but please, it's a community. Talk among yourselves. Definitely put your core competency and things like that. But I will come back afterwards and answer every comment, question that you might have. So if you got questions in there, put them down. If you don't know me, I am Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live where I discuss process and procedures for succeeding in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process, and the process goes from A to Z, and when we follow the process, we achieve the success we're looking for, that outcome that we expect. And today, I'm going to keep teaching on process, and I'm going to teach you how to meet small businesses to subcontract under. This is the first of 3 ways that I describe to make money in the federal market, right? You can make money subbing under smalls, you can make money priming with agencies, and you can make money subbing under larges. There's a whole video I've done on that, the 3 ways to make money and why, especially for small businesses, you should do them in that order. That way, by the time you reach the larges, you're bringing in both federal experience and agency specific experience that they like. So before we get started, help me remember who you are. Put your company name in the chat with 2 or 3 words that describe your company and make it easy for me and your buyers to know who you are. I do want to mention, as you're doing that, we're getting ready to get started here completely into the meat of today's training, that for those of you who are waiting for a handout, I've got a couple of handouts that I've been promising this week. I've got all afternoon free, and I'm going to true up on all those requests. I'm going to come back and get those handouts to you. So I'll get that all done today before I go have any fun and go sailing. Okay, so let's get started with how to meet small businesses to subcontract under. Today, I'm going to walk through, primarily the training is about walking you through 10 steps that I recommend you need for meeting small businesses to subcontract under. There is no secret, right? There is no silver bullet. I'm not here to teach you something magical. I'm just here to talk about a process that I follow and a process that you could follow that will lead to predictable success. Success in this particular case means meeting and getting in the door and building a relationship with smalls where you're able to subcontract on opportunities that they prime. So before we get started on those 10 steps, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. First off, there's this old adage or line that failing to plan is planning to fail. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And the whole point of that is that if you don't put a plan in place, it's pretty sure that you're just not going to succeed at what you want. Well, today I'm going to give you a plan, a roadmap. I'm going to lay out 10 steps and say, hey, this is what you should do. Right? If you've got your own process, your own way, you can look at my stuff and compare it. If you've got no process, use mine until you start seeing what I would suggest you should be able to achieve. What I'll talk about today is the same approach basically that I use when I reach out to agencies or large primes. I follow 3 phases when I reach out to new entities, smalls, larges, or primes, or agencies. The 3 steps are research, outreach, and capture. So if I'm going to an agency, that kind of makes sense, right? I research that agency as much as I can. Then I begin to outreach into them, calling different people, starting to try to build and develop a relationship. And then from there, I'm identifying opportunities that I will pursue capture. If you take those 3 steps into large or small firms, it's that same thing. I want to research who they are. I want to begin to do outreach, and then I want to capture in this case might be looking at a pipeline, have a regular pipeline meetings, et cetera. And so that's the approach that I do. As I move forward, I want you to think right now, if you know, and don't answer this in the chat, just answer it in your head, right? Do you know how you'll make the next $100,000 you're trying to make, or the next $1 million you're trying to make? Or if you're a larger firm, do you know how you'll make that next $10 million that you want to make? Do you know what you're selling? I've seen too many companies that just don't have, don't take a second to go, you know what, this is what we're selling and this is who we're selling it to. You're going to see this theme through my 10 steps. It's focus, right? And I really want you to think about that, because when you know that, it makes it so much easier. It's kind of like if I'm in Washington, D.C., I need to know where I'm going and how generally I'm going. So I'm going to take a car and I'm going to San Francisco. I'm like, all right, that's the basics. That's all I need. Everything else is just could be course corrected on the way to San Francisco, but at least I know my destination and I know my transportation method out there. So I say that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. And the thing that you have to remember is that you need to believe in a process. Hopefully you believe in the process I talk about, but you need to believe in a process and then follow it to achieve success. And so today I can give you the process, but it's up to you to believe in the process and to follow the process. And if you've ever heard the term process improvement, take my process, use it, and improve it as you go along. But start with a process, believe in it, and you will achieve the success when you follow it. Something else I wanted to show you here before we go to the 10 steps is I want to pull up this bell curve. If you haven't heard me say this before, let me see if I can get this right. If you haven't heard me say this before, some will, some won't, so what? What that means is some people will buy what you're selling or meet with you. Some people won't. And so what? Don't dwell on it. You know, it's not personal. It's just my answer is no, not yes or something. And when you look at this adoption bell curve here, it's a technology adoption bell curve is where I originally learned about it back in Silicon Valley. But if you look at the right-hand side where it's late majority and laggards, what that tells you is that 50% of whoever you talk to is not buying at all. They just won't buy with you. And then this, and so the minute you know that, then you know every 100 people you talk to, 50 are going to say no. This early majority, they're really not going to do anything. They're hammers and haws or maybes. They're folks in that range, all right? None of these people are bad. It's just the stage they're in when you're reaching to them. And what I like to get people to focus on is that when you're doing outreach to a small business, a group of small businesses or agencies or larges, they're all going to follow this bell curve. Some will, some won't, so what? And the innovators and the early adopters are the ones that will. And that's who we're trying to reach. What this means is if you reach out to 100 people, 16 will say yes. 2.5% of them, 2.5 people out of 100 will go, oh my God, I've been waiting for you. I'm so glad you're here. I got work for you. Let's get you working, right? But it's hard to get to those people unless you follow a process and hit the right numbers. And so just as I tell you to follow a process and reach out, I want you to remember the bell curve when you might feel a little bit demotivated from, hey, no one's taking my call, or they took my call, but it didn't go anywhere. Don't worry about it. They'll come back to you, right? I mean, the numbers will play out. So let me dive in. Let me get back to my slides here so I make sure I'm following. Oh, one last thing is we're reaching out to smalls and I'm talking about smalls. One thing to keep in mind as you're approaching a small is with them, right? What's in it for me? And what's in it for smalls is that they care about winning more business. That's it, right? If you're reaching into them and you're trying to be a teammate of some sort, that's it. They're not looking for you to, to do one of these off things. They're looking at you going, can you help me serve my customer better and win more business? And if you keep that in mind, then you'll know your contribution. What are you bringing to the table for them? And in a second, you'll hear me talk about this, focus, core competency, but you're bringing your expertise. And the reason I say this is I don't want you to bring your tags. I don't want you to bring your, hey, I'm wishing I could get in here. I want you to look and go, I'm really good at something. This is what I can offer to you, and it will help you win more business with your customers. When you think about it from their perspective, and I don't want you to go over crazy on value proposition, just think about with them, what's in it for me? And if you answer the question on their behalf, you'll be approaching them in a way that they'll recognize that you care about them and their success. Okay, so if you see me looking down, I'm just tracking my time. Not only do I stick to time, but now I just promised somebody I would absolutely be done on time, and I want to make sure I am. Throughout the next 10 steps, I'm going to use a business. Let's say I own a business, right? I'm going to say I own a business and the specialty is data. And that goes to step number one when you're trying to meet small businesses to go subcontract, right? Develop new relationships, meet them. You need to know your core competency. And so you have to pick one area that you're the subject matter expert. I did a video before where I talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. People feel like if I don't say that I just said data, but if I don't say data and cloud and this and that, then maybe I don't get that business. Well, but if I say all those, I probably won't get in the door because they won't look to me as maybe that expert. But if I come in and say, look, I am an expert in data. I'm really familiar with the whole idea of how data's being treated as a strategic asset in DoD. I know that Advana is this new push within DoD to manage data that Booz Allen is running, whatever it is. If I can speak to the area that I'm an expert on, then it will help me in every outreach activity that I do. So make sure you have a core competency is step number one. Step number two is, and by the way, I'm saying there is no silver bullet. Follow the process and you'll achieve success. Step two is pick a primary agency. And so this is really important. If you're under $10 million, you should be trying to aim for one department at most. Frankly, if I was to give you tighter constraint, I would say one buying command like NAVC in the Navy, which is in DoD, right, all the way down. But being loose here, let's just say one department. If you pick one department, it will help you with understanding your core competency in that department, what their concerns are, so that when you speak to the smalls, you can speak to the agency concerns. When you do outreach, you're finding people who are actually with that agency that you care about. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But if you know what your one agency is, not two agencies, if you know what your one agency is, throw it in the chat for me, because I'm trying to build this list of understanding where all of us are, and especially you, so that as I do more material going forward, I can maybe touch on those agencies. So one word agency, unless the agency actually has 2 or 3 words. So the second one was pick your primary agency. Third thing, as you're prepping, right? You're getting prepared next week. You're going to knock this stuff out and then start making calls in a new concerted effort. Step 3 is make your capabilities scream your core competencies. I've heard people give advice about, hey, you got to tweak your capability statement for every agency you go into. I'm like, stop that. First off, anybody who gives that advice has no clue what it's like to be a small business. What do you think? We have this big marketing team sitting around that can just tweak it. What you need to do is pick an agency. Let's say the Navy as my example for this training today. Then I will give it a little blue flavor to it. I might have a ship or something, whatever, right? I'll make it a little bit Navy, but I'm not trying to do that for every agency out there. So if I do it that way, that's perfect. And NAVC is not getting anything special from me. There's a Navy look to it, and that's it. It makes me kind of look like I'm going after that agency. But what I really want you to do is to make it scream your core competency. I said data is my core competency. So when somebody comes in and they look at my core competency section of my capability statement, it should say some of the most key phrases related to data science, data engineering, for example. If I have a little blurb writing it, I might write something that says, hey, we help you treat data as a strategic asset so that you can make better leadership decisions or whatever, right? Having that in there, when somebody picks up my capability statement, they will go, oh, Neil, data, I know exactly what he does and I know where to refer him. That's the thing you want, right? Is with your capability statement, you want people to be able to quickly pigeonhole you. And I have a video. If you actually like me to send you a link to that video, a training just like this one, but specific to the capability statement, put in capability statement video into the chat and I'll send it to you. But in here, you want to be pigeonholed so that people go, I know where to send you. And you do that by making your capability statement scream your core competency, scream that you are the subject matter expert on there. So I don't mean scream like a Harry Potter letter, just really good marketing. Okay, step 4, you want to have a LinkedIn headline that screams core competency. And so here, if you're not familiar, I got a whole nother video on this that we did a couple of weeks back, and I can send you that link if you just say LinkedIn headline. But in your LinkedIn profile, as you look at people, you'll see a line. My headline says, government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. And it goes on and says, I help small businesses, track our revenue. But the idea is I'm trying to attract people the minute they look at my profile to go, oh, government contracting, that's what this guy does. It's not a secret, right? It's just a process. I've had many people say that they've been attracted to my profile and to my content because they believe in process and they see that I'm trying to teach process, it works. Well, what is your headline? I used a headline. It's funny. I wrote it, but it's still on my whiteboard. So let me turn. But it says, we help federal agencies turn, what the hell is that? We help federal agencies turn vast data into actionable information, right? If I had a data company, that's maybe what I put on there. And the reason I say that is, imagine all these people in the community right now, we're on LinkedIn and they look at you. When they look at your profile, the first thing they'll see in the comments and the thumbs up area is your name and your headline. And so you want that headline to kind of pull them to your profile where they can learn more about you. So make your headline scream your core competency. You're going to see this theme on here about screaming. So the step 4 was have a LinkedIn headline. Step 5 goes with LinkedIn theme here. Put an experience description, again, that screams SME, not that you're looking for a job. So if somebody comes to your profile, they're going to look at your headline and get drawn in there, and they'll see your banner. But if they come down to your company and your experience section, you want that experience section to talk about what you and your company can do for them, not, hey, I'm looking for a job. Whether you own the company or you're a salesperson, you want to change that experience description so that it is talking about how you can help the company. If you're an employee, feel free to put more down below that talks about how great an employee you are and somebody should hire you. But at the top, it should scream you and your company's subject matter expertise, and not that you're looking for a job. One tip that I say in a video I've done before on this part is that you want to put your capability statement in that experience section. So if they're coming down and looking at you and they're doing their due diligence, they can find it. And by the way, I'll tell you, I live and breathe this every day. I just got contacted yesterday. Somebody referred this person to me, and they want to set up a meeting, and I said sure, because I do that. And I said, but I want to do my due diligence. And so I looked at them and I saw them online, and I was able to see what they do. But because they pointed me in a couple directions that they have, I was able to learn more about them. All of us do due diligence on whoever we're going to meet with and make it easier for these small businesses in particular to do that. Okay, so that's the first 5 tips. Second tips move into really diving further preparation specific to the small business. So you want to put a call plan template in place. If you're going to reach out, say you're going to create a campaign that says, I'm going to reach out to small businesses until I find several that make really good primes for me to subcontract under, then you want to have a call plan template. And if you haven't heard me talk about call plan template, put call plan template in the contents, and I'll send you the template I have and a link to the video so you can watch and learn that. But anyways, in the call plan, there's 3 things that I really want to point out. First thing is understanding the objective, right? The objective is something you're trying to get out of the call. Every meeting should be successful, not great. It shouldn't be fun. Hey, we all liked each other. It should move the sale forward, whether it's with an agency or in this case with a small, you want to move the relationship forward. An example of moving it forward could be getting an NDA in place, or moving, right? Hey, I'll send you my NDA, you send me yours. Or another objective could be follow-on meeting. But you don't want anything less. You want to use this call plan and that objective as a measurement to go, you know what? Should I invest any more time? I'm not saying Jane or John are not great people. I'm just saying they're not a fit for what I want, because what I want are innovators and early adopters, right? I want that 13.5%, and they're not that. They're sitting up here somewhere else because they're not giving me a tangible step forward. The other thing that a call plan has, and this is the power of it to me, is it has questions in there, and I describe it from SPIN questions, and that's a sales methodology. You can go track on my videos for that, but it's SPIN. And the idea is I want to be able to write questions in that template so that when I start doing outreach and I'm calling all these smalls, I'm able to ask the right questions. For example, if I do data and I'm reaching out to somebody who's doing, I think might be a fit, I can ask some questions about, hey, our expertise is data. Are you guys tracking on that? Is that a core competency you're developing internally? Whatever it is, I can have some of these questions so I don't go in to a meeting winging it, right? If I expect to get millions of dollars out of a relationship, which I do out of every relationship, it might be today's $1 million, or it might take me a few years for us to all get $1 million, together. But if I'm going to expect millions of dollars in revenue, then I should expect to put some effort into earning that and working on it. So putting a call plan template in place will help you when you start doing all these calls, because then you tweak a little bit of information per person you're calling, but you've got the general set of questions to drive forward on that core competency that you talked about, or that I talked about. Okay, so let's move into step 7. So step 6, 1 through 6 are all about preparation on the material you need, the decisions you need to make. Step 7 goes into basically identifying who are you going to call. So step 7 is go into FPDS and USA Spending. You probably have heard this before. Those are great tools to be able to learn things. But step 7 is go in and download a list of all the small business winners in the agency of your choice. So if you're going after a Navy, for example, I would go in there and say, show me all the winners over the last 12 months or 24 months, whatever. And in FPDS, it's so straightforward, and you have to learn the tool. If you don't know the tool, take a second to learn it. But when you go in there, you can get a list of it, download it to a spreadsheet. And I'm going to go really fast with this tip here, but that spreadsheet, when you download it, if you're using Excel, you can just click on it and create a pivot table and just Google, how do I create a pivot table? Very straightforward steps. I get that it's hard the first time, but all you have to do is Google and it'll be easy once you see somebody else doing it. But when you do a pivot table, what it'll do is take all these thousands of fields and tell you how many wins has each one of those companies had. And for me, I would look at them and start working my list and going, well, I'm starting with the winningest company, or maybe I start in the middle, whatever it is. But at least now I have a list of companies that are out there. Inside of FPDS and USA Spending, they do have some generic contact information for the company. But moving into step 8 is where you get specific information. So I might try to look for those companies that I just found off of FPDS, out of FPDS, inside of a tool called the Dynamic Small Business Search Tool, DSBS. DSBS is a combination tool with SAM where all of us register to sell to the federal government. And the beauty about that tool as it relates to small businesses is that it has the name of the owner generally and the phone number and email. It certainly has a point of contact, a name and or a number and an email for you to reach out to. And so the first step in step 8 about going into DSBS is I would look for the people I found in FPDS and find the owners of those companies. Just reach out directly to them. Starts with finding their information. The second thing I would use DSBS for, and this is important for me, if I'm doing data, I would want to find companies that are doing complementary services. And I got to find this balance, right? I might think I would go after AI, artificial intelligence, but the problem with that is maybe there's a lot of people who are doing AI who actually are doing data too. So you just decide whether that's too close of a complementary offering. But I certainly would go after like cloud. Whoever's doing cloud within DSBS, I would say, hey, find me all the hub zones doing cloud. And then when I begin to reach out to them, I'm reaching out to a specific group. And remember, I'm improving my process. When I reach out to these people, do I find that every cloud company is actually doing data too? Okay, maybe I don't look for them then. I look for somebody else. I know, though, for a fact that the people doing cloud don't necessarily track on data, and that would be a good match for me. And so if I started a company right now and it was data, they're the ones I'm going to reach out to because they're in with the customer. That's the part that matters to me. And then I can come in and say, hey, I can be your data company for a couple of years, subcontracting, right? But it begins with knowing who they are. So FPDS and then DSBS. So step 9 is calling and emailing the first time. So I talked about research. Step 1 through 8 is research. And step 9 and 10 are about outreach. The last part, capture, getting into it, that's you, and that's once you're in. So step 9 is calling and emailing for the first time. And what I tell people when you reach out to anybody, it doesn't matter whether it's a large, a small, or an agency, reach out with a voicemail first. And so you want to have a voicemail script that's easy to leave. Most people nowadays don't answer their phone, so it's great to have that voicemail script. And I'm leaving something that says, hey, I'm calling to do an intro call, right? And I'm calling you. I just want to set up an intro meeting. This is Neil McDonald from Data's R Us kind of thing. And I leave that information on a voicemail and I say, I'll follow up with an email. When I do that and that person listens to the voicemail, they're on watch for an email. And then in a crowded inbox, if I have just told them on the phone that there's an email, they might be looking for that. And it raises my email up a little higher in their mind to search when they're looking at inbox. And so what I tell people and what I'm telling you is wait a few hours before you send the email. So leave the voicemail and then follow up and send the email. And I've been doing this process for years, and it's great. It's a very soft way of coming in. There's a whole nother way I talk about warming up relationships before you even do that. But right now, what I'm saying is, reach out. You're doing this call, reaching out to a lot of small businesses, do the voicemail, and then send the email. Step 10 is to get into this rhythm. If somebody doesn't say no, the answer is always yes or maybe, but it certainly is not no until they say no in sales like this. And so step 10 is follow the 30-day roadmap that I laid out. And I did this in a previous LinkedIn Live. And I got a handout that shows the 30 days and what you do on the different days. So if you want that, let me know. That's a 30-day roadmap on, just put 30-day roadmap in the chat. But this 30-day roadmap talks about, what do I do after I call somebody and leave a voicemail and then send that first email? Am I pestering them? How often should I get back to them? In the roadmap, I talk about in that first week, you follow up, or you reach out to them, and then you follow up like 2-3 days later. And then you go into the next week and you do these kind of emails to them. You do an email, a phone call, and you're kind of going back and forth until you reach them. I've got so many people who want to reach out to me that I have, not so many, I don't want to say that because that's not exactly, I respond to people as fast as I can, but I definitely have people I should be responding back to that I haven't. And I hope they don't take that as no, like I'm not willing to help them or I don't have time to answer their question. I just am busy and I'm getting to things as fast as I can. And so those people, what I would encourage them is to, keep talking to me. I didn't say no. I didn't say I wasn't going to help somebody. And our customers are the same way, whether it's small agency or largest. When we're trying to reach out to people, it's the same thing, right? They're busy and you just need to refresh their memory that you're knocking on their door, trying to get in. So anyways, this is a fire hose of information. It actually is, inside of it has got multiple other trainings I've done. And so throughout, I was telling you, hey, put a comment in the chat and I'll get back to you on it. I am also going to, we're almost at 100 LinkedIn Live trainings, and I've got them all now in a list. So if you want to see what those are and watch some of the ones I've done before, you can go into my LinkedIn profile in the featured section right near the top. You'll see the first one is the Small Business Specialist Directory, which you definitely need to have. And the second one is that list of other LinkedIn Live trainings I've done. Go in there because a lot of what I mentioned today breaks out into 30-minute sections for each one of those steps, if that makes sense. So I'm going to come back and look at questions and see if there's any activity down here. I know I see a lot of stuff in here. You're welcome, Stacy. Stacy just happens to be the first person I saw when I get in there. But absolutely, I get the roadmaps to you. If you found value in today's content, please give a thumbs up. We have a community that's developing around these daily LinkedIn Lives, and I'm very committed to giving actionable steps, right? The training that we try to do every day is designed to say, okay, let me go test that out. Let me go work on that step. Next week, my plan is to line up 5 days of capture call, or basically cold calling. How do I talk to a contracting officer? If I get in, what do I say? I was talking with somebody this week who was really struggling with that. I can call them. I got no problem calling them, but what do I say? Next week, I'm really going to try to do 5 different versions of what do I say to move the sale forward. Whether you're trying to sell a small business to work with you, a large prime to even think about you on their team, or an agency to help you during business development or capture. Next week, I'm going to be gearing towards those. So watch for that as well. Okay, give it a thumbs up. And remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is having a great weekend, and I hope you do. I'll see you next time.